Good evening, everyone. On the discussion of biomass conversion and biorefinery NPTEL lecture, doubt solving session. We'll wait for 2-3 minutes and then we can start. Okay, so welcome to the discussion on biomass conversion biorefinery. Now we can start today's discussion. In today's discussion, we'll discuss the assignment problem of assignment problem of week 10 discussion and week 10 chapter, and then week 11 discussion, week 11 chapter discussion. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen now. Okay, so week 10 discussion which we did last time, which is on hydrogen, methane and methanol production from the biomass, and different ways to production of hydrogen, methane and methanol, let's say. And in the today's discussion, we'll go through the organic commodity chemicals like various acids which which we got from the fermentation. Examples: succinic acid, polylactic acid, and many more. So okay, so he is our professor, Professor Kaustubha Mohanty, and he is a facilitator of this subject. And I am a Bhavik Mahant. I am a PhD student in the Chemical Engineering Department at IIT Madras, and these are my mail ID and mobile number. You can contact me on this if you have any doubt regarding this subject, and if you have any discussion, if you want to discuss any topic in the under this area of this subject. So we'll go through the basic discussion of last week, where we are solving the not actually solving, but we are understanding the various assignment questions and how the solution came. So it depends on it was on hydrogen, methane and methanol. So as you can see, we started last time from biomass conversion into the hydrogen. So the most important uh, uh, hydrogen production method is from the steam gasification on other nature gas. Then also we are using this water gas shift reactions. So if you are seeing the biomass, also we can go for this kind of options where we can go for the steam gasification, and after that synthetic gas will be generated, which needs to be go for the reformation from the water gas shift reaction, and you will get hydrogen. Or else you can also directly produce hydrogen out of in this gas reforming, which is nothing CO plus tier 2. It will convert into methane plus H2, or it's a reversible process. In another way, we can go for the supercritical water gasification, and the second step is again syngas reforming, and then water gas shift reaction, you will get the hydrogen. And at the end, fast pyrolysis. As we saw that if you go for the slow pyrolysis, then you will get much more amount of bio oil. But if you go for the fast pyrolysis, then the bio oil is in the lower content, and then whatever still you will get the bio oil, that you will go for the steam reforming, and it again go for the water gas reaction and hydrogen. So these are the main three categories where it will be used for the production of the hydrogen. Will not go to the already detail. After few slides, we are just focusing on to the assignment questions. So basically, the processes for hydrogen production by using the biomass route or biological route are either in the presence of light, which is from the photolysis, or in the or we go for the photo fermentation. And when you go for the fermentation, there are two ways. One is in the presence of light, and another is a dark fermentation where you are not using sunlight or any other kind of light source. And at the end, whenever you are going any kind of fermentation, you are using the enzymes and bacteria and microorganisms. Sorry. And then you will get hydrogen out of it. So we start with the biophotolysis, and some questions are there from the biophotolysis. So it's basically from the microalgae. If you go for the production of the hydrogen from the biophotolysis, then you have to rely on the microalgae. So in the presence of sun, microalgae undergo through the reactions, uh, mainly from the fermentation reaction. This is known as a direct biophotolysis, and there is an indirect biophotolysis also. So by using the light reaction or dark reaction, it will go into the production of the hydrogen, which is basically known as a biohydrogen also. And the nitrogenous, which is a process which is in intermediate step is nitrogenous, where you are using the bacteria which is for the nitrogenous sun also. And the another is the indirect biophotolysis of water, where we are taking the water and sorry, in before the fermentation you will go for the photolysis by one and two step, where you are using the sunlight, and at the end whatever the product you are getting, it will go into the fermentation process, and from the nitrogenous or hydrogenous bacteria you are using, at the end it will get hydrogen production. So this is which we are doing here, which is in the first stage, but in the second stage it's actual fermentation, where it is not directly related to the sunlight most of the time. So it's why indirect biophotolysis. So now if we talk about the questions come from this topic, then the question is the major enzyme needed for the direct biophotolysis of water, which is this. However, this enzyme is very sensitive to oxygen. So when we go through the description of the direct photolysis, and then there is a process called the hydrogenesis, where bacteria which we are using, which is a cyanobacteria, they are performing this biophotolysis, and on the green macro in the presence of green macroalgae, and they are generating hydrogen. So that's why it is hydrogenesis. Genesis means a production. And the same, if you are going to which kind of enzymes which you are using, which kind of catalysis active sites from the enzyme and from metal which we are using in this process, it is mentioned over here. We will not go through in detail for that one as our time concern. But here it is mentioned that hydrogenesis play a vital role of biophotolysis of cyanobacteria and green microalgae. If you are talking about direct biophotolysis, then hydrogenesis steps is much more important. And the answer is here, it is biophotolysis, which is major enzyme is needed. It's known as a hydrogenesis. Okay, so the same this indirect biophotolysis. So as we talk about the direct photo, we seen the difference already. This is also we understood last time. So in the first process, where we are taking a light, and then you are go for hydrogenesis, and you are getting the hydrogen. This is direct biophotolysis. But when you are using the PS1 photosynthesis process one, and what are the product you are getting out of it, which will again go to the in the presence of some enzymes and some microorganisms, and you are going for the photosynthetic carbon fixation and fermentation process, and at the end you are getting the hydrogen. Then it is an indirect biophotolysis. You don't need to remember or understand all this thing. Maybe this is I put for the just basic understanding, and it's different than the professors, but you don't have to understand or remember. Actually understanding is required, but you don't have to remember that which kind of enzymes work is which kind of electron exchange is taking place, how the right is taking source. And so it's fine if you just understand the process itself. So and it's the question asked from the indirect biophotolysis is the which microalgae has been extensively researched for the indirect biophotolysis for hydrogen production. So we need to understand which kind of microalgae. So basically, first you need to understand there's two kind of algae. One is a micro and one is a macro. Depending on the size which we are taking of the algae, it's micro and macro. So if you're talking about the microalgae, then if you just go to the description of the indirect biophotolysis, then if you talk about the bacteria or microorganisms, the cyanobacteria, it's contain not only nitrogenous but also uptake hydrogenases. So if you talk about the bacteria, then the bacteria is must be cyanobacteria, and then it is taking the process, and in this biophotolysis process, it basically we are separated oxygen production and hydrogen production was by we need to understand that inhibition is going on or not, because when we are using the microorganisms, sometimes if we are focusing on one kind of hydrogen production, then we have to understand we need to uh, in the such we have to go through in the such a way that oxygen production will got inhibit and hydrogen production is got properly, or in this other case both production is got smoothly. There is no inhibition of any kind of chemical gas production is there. So if we just think about that, if it is we need to check that hydrogen production activity is not inhibiting. So because of all this kind of thing, the great source of my algae is the Calomydomas monas reinhardti. So this is a typical name. Uh, uh, so Calomydomonas reinhardti. So this is the main microorganism which we use for the indirect biophotolysis. It is our mentioned over here, and this is the main microorganism which we are choosing in our assignment question also. So the answer is Clalomydomonas reinhardti. So it was investigated to increase the hydrogen production rate and remove the oxygen which inhibits the hydrogen production activity. So as soon as we are talking about the hydrogen oxygen production, so if you are not inhibiting oxygen production, then hydrogen production will get let down. How the oxygen hydrogen are converted into the water molecule, and you are not get the pure hydrogen out of it, but you are getting the water molecules at the end. So that's why we have to remove and separate oxygen as and when time is come. Now I hope. Okay. So photofermentation. Okay, I just need to check the recording is going on. Okay. Yeah. Photofermentation for hydrogen production. So as we discussed last time, biomass is there, in which if you are using the light source, and then photofermentation, there is the dark fermentation, photofermentation. So these are all kind of fermentation process where we are using the sunlight, then it is a photofermentation. When we are not using sunlight, this dark fermentation. It's very simple as it is. And depending on the process, like dark or photo fermentation, you will use your microorganisms, your biomass mostly it will be covered, all kind of biomass in both of the fermentation process. But which kind of process you are taking place in the presence of microorganisms and enzymes, yeah, that you need to take care of it. So if you talk about the photo fermentation, then mostly the bacteria is known as a purple bacteria, because when you are reacting or when they are doing the process, the color of the bacteria it's mostly as seen as a purple. So that's why it's known as a purple bacteria if you are using the biomass. And you have to, depending on the process, you have to provide the limited amount of nitrogen or excess amount of nitrogen. And this is all so many general thing, depending on your biomass, depending on the process, depending on the microorganisms, which kind of nitrogen, how much nitrogen is required, oxygen is required, not required, limited required, excess requirement is there. So it depends, that's why it's general. And when you go to photofermentation, then it will convert to hydrogen, and you have to make sure that oxygen will be removed, otherwise oxygen will convert into the water molecule. So this is why typical, if you talk about the process, then sunlight it will get the electrons from blue green algae, then same thing it is in the second stage. The electron is converted to the glucose, cell material is converted into glucose, it will fix CO2, and the blue algae directly from this 2H plus by taking electron it will convert into hydrogen. But during this the second process is going on, CO2 fixation, and that we have to take care, and that will be converted into fermentation. So whatever the cell material is there, So it is going through the fermentation process. CO2 and all carbon sources are converted into the hydrogen. How after fermentation it will convert into solid form, but what are the gas materials there? It will taking H plus, it will providing the electron to the blue green algae, and then whatever the H plus ions are there, it are converted which are converted into the hydrogen molecule or hydrogen atom, and then it eventually molecules, and it will get converted into the gas. So now got a question. So okay, so this is all about photofermentation. There was no question, so we'll not go into much detail. In that same similar kind of, there is a dark fermentation. So with the dark fermentation, fermented conversion of organic substance or biomass material to produce hydrogen takes place in anaerobic condition. Here, dark fermentation, mostly specifically it is mentioned it is anaerobic condition. You are not required air in that, so you are not required nitrogen or oxygen in that, and without the presence of light. It's complex process. Obviously all microorganism based biological, biochemical or biological process are complex, and it has many advantages, and this is one of the process where dark fermentation is, people are going into much more research, and now in the future they have started producing hydrogen by using the dark fermentation, but still the scale up of this process is needs to be done. And it has many advantages of photosynthetic and photofermentation process, so which is it can produce the hydrogen continuously without the presence of light, because as other process require the sunlight, so mostly we need to perform the process in the daytime, and that too it is a batch wise process. We can't do 24 by 7, but we talk about the dark fermentation, as it is not require any kind of air and sunlight, and it will be go on and on. Simple process is there, one thing is there, simpler than other, it's although complex but simple process than the other fermentation process and photosynthesis process. Its requirement of energy is low, its input utilization of low value waste is also fine. So question asked is which matter is not dependent on light for biological production. So biophotolysis is obviously dependent. Photo decomposition, name where there is a name of photo is there. So photo is coming from the photon, and photon are always coming from the sunlight or light, and that is a dark fermentation. So answer is a dark fermentation, which is not taking any kind of light and photon. If you talk about the dark fermentation, someone is there. Okay. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Sorry, by mistakenly I go out of the meeting. Okay, I'm again sharing my screen. So today we are discussing week 10 and as well as week 11 content. Week 10 discussion of assignment problem, and week 11 discussion for week 11 some of the problem. Not some assignment problem, some of the information. So week 10 we discussed last time. Now we are going for a, okay, just we discuss about dark fermentation, so it is not require any kind of light. Here you can see biomass will be pretreated and hydrolyzed. Yeah, hydrolyzed, and then you go for the dark fermentation, you will get organic acid as well as oxygen. Sorry, hydrogen. So it is how it is different than the photosynthesis, dialysis of photosynthetic processes, as well as photofermentation process, which we discuss. Now here the process is, typical process is glucose is converted into in the one way it's hydrogen, and another way is acetic acid, acetate. This is the two routes which are mainly used for the dark fermentation. One is a pyruvate, it's a glucose converted to pyruvate, and then it eventually converted to acetyl CO and acetate by using the facultative anaerobes. Now there was a question on the basis of facultative and different kind of anaerobes condition and microorganisms that we will see in the next slide. And the other process is, first it converted to the CO2 and acetyl CoA, then that pyruvate ferroxin oxidoreductase, and eventually it will convert to the strict anaerobes ferroxin. So you don't have to mug up all each and everything, you have to just understand the process, that's it. What are the steps involved? Here you will get extra step is CO2, and here format directly we get, but here do not get direct format, so you will get PFOR, and which is basically pyruvate ferroxin oxidoreductase, and then FD reductase, and you will get at the end you will get the hydrogenous by using hydrogenous bacteria, which we just discussed. We get the hydrogen. So now there are two kind of anaerobies. One is a strict anaerobies and another is a facultative anaerobies. Anaerobies means microorganisms, in simple word you can, or microorganisms, or some kind of what you can say, uh, obviously enzymes, and which are working with the microorganisms. So basically these are the, in general word it is enzymes. So which is a strict anaerobies, so the word suggests strict. So it is sensitive to the oxygen. First you have to understand strict and facultative, there are two different approaches. One is sensitive to oxygen, and then we have to make sure that the contact of oxygen is too much lower in this process of strict anaerobies. And then if you want to produce hydrogen, if you go for the facultative, then a little bit or some oxygen sensitivity is there, so limited amount of oxygen contact is fine. So if you talk about strict anaerobies, then Clostridium species we already discussed, basic question is also there. And this enzyme involved is a hydrogen production by strict microorganism is hydrogenase. So it is basically was a microbacteria which we are using this hydrogenases process where hydrogenase bacteria, and this enzyme is sensitive to oxygen. This much is enough. We don't go to much more detail. Last week maybe we already visited. In dark fermentation, hydrogen products by the stick anaerobes is performed by which bacteria? It's a Clostridium sp. It is mentioned over there. The same if you talk about the facultative anaerobes, then it is as you can see, they are less oxygen sensitive, and there is no need for the addition of explosive reducing agent to the medium. Other than that, the yield is lower. As you can see here, the yield you will get 9.95 millimole, 3 mole per hydrogen per mole of lactase. You will get okay, so here 1.6 mole per hydrogen per mole of sucrose is there, but here is the glucose and lactose, which is a much smaller sugar than the sucrose. Sucrose is a bigger sugar. So but you eventually will get this, it is not that much sensitive, so the efficiency or efficacy is also lower down, so the yield is also lower down. Okay, so the similar kind of question is asked here by facultative anaerobes, which kind of bacteria will be used. So it is mentioned as enterobacter species, and the answer is enterobacter. Okay, so now we are not going to the each and every slide of last week. We are now jumping to the biogas. So this was the question of biogas, which is basically methane gas production, and amount depending on the amount of the methane, which will be biomethane or biogas. So in the biogas, as we already seen biogas production in the anaerobic digestion process, and all we already have visited in detail into the different lectures. But if you see here that we are using the biodegradable materials first, which is the biomass. Then if you go into the fermentation process where it is converted into the biodegradable substances, or in between the let's say sugar molecules, or different kind of molecules which can be easily degraded by using the other bacteria. So for first process we are using the process of which is use the fermentative bacteria, which convert the basic biomass into the fermentation process, and then afterwards that will be either took one route where it is converted into the hydrogen carbon dioxide acetic acid, which we saw in the last couple of slides. In the another route, it will go into the sugar glycerol, the small monomer of sugars and fatty acids and amino acids in converted by using the acidogenic bacteria. Here both of the places acids are generated, so that's why it is gone through the acidogenesis process, where there's bacteria which are doing this process known as acidogenic bacteria. Then if you go talk about this process here, hydrogen CO2 you get. Then if you want to convert it into the methane, then you would use a methanogenic bacteria, which will be eventually convert this all processes into a acetic acid. Mainly it will convert it to methane. But if you are following this path where is sugar and alcohol there, then it will be go into the acetogenic process where it is converted to acetic acid, and then eventually it will convert to methanogenic bacteria by methane. So here we are using the biofiltration thing. So by using the biogas production, the biofiltration is much more important step. Why? Because when you are generate any kind of fermentation or digestion process which you are taking place, lot amount of hydrogen sulfide is generated. So hydrogen sulfide is very toxic, poisonous gas to come across, and then uh, generally it will go into the environment. Then the pollutions and everything will be much more higher. Other than that, it has a very low TLV, total lethargic value. So if your human come across under the some concentration, more than minimum concentration of hydrogen sulfide, it may be lethal, or it may be person can be died because of that particular hydrogen sulfide gas. So now the main task is to remove this hydrogen sulfide. Basically we have to reduce the efficacy of hydrogen sulfide by converting into the sulfur or sulfur, any kind of salts, and or pure sulfur. So this process is known as a biofiltration, where we are using the natural biological metabolism, where we are getting this sulfur, which we are getting the hydrogen sulfide, but we are using this sulfur oxidizing bacteria which convert this into the elemental sulfur or sulfate. So this biological filter combines water scrubbing and biological desulfurization. So they made filtration process where we need to use water for the water scrubbing, and eventually the microorganism will work for the desulfurization. So it will be required a bioscrubber, biofilter, as well as biorecurring filter. So this can be set up in three different configurations. You can use it. And now the question was asked is which components typically removed from the biogas by the process of biofiltration. So obviously you can't remove carbon dioxide. Oxygen will be there, or it's a very limited amount. But mostly oxygen is converted into the different kind of chemicals. You will not see the pure oxygen. Sometimes you will get ammonia, and then it will eventually convert into amino acids. But hydrogen sulfide, you don't have to take any risk with that. So hydrogen sulfide will be the answer. And the first slide of biofiltration is mentioned that we are using the nature biological metabolism for sulfur dioxide, using the sulfur oxidizing bacteria. So you have to understand the H2S is there. If you provide the oxygen, by some means, if you are providing the oxidizing agent or oxidizing bacteria, then it will convert to H2O and you will get sulfur. Sometimes you will not get sulfur, then you are doing, let's say, sulfate. So how you can convert the sulfate to SO4? So if you are providing more oxygen, then it will go to sulfate ion, and any metal part is there, it will react with that. Let's say Na2SO4. And then if you talk about the same biogas process, then which they are not only one kind of bacteria. We are using mixture of bacteria, which is basically the cocktail. There's professor suggesting the name cocktail of different kind of bacteria. As we saw that it's fermentative bacteria, acidogenic bacteria, acetogenic bacteria, which is acid produce acid and produce acetic acid, and then methanogenic bacteria. So all are bacteria combined together, and it's known as a biocenosis. So preferably the biofilms on soil surfaces or flocculants. It depends on the process you are converting into this kind of different configuration. So okay, yeah, I need to check the time because I'm not in India, so I need to take a look on time. So anyway, how the microbes are embedded in the extracellular polymeric substances, which are composed of polysaccharides, proteins, nucleic acid, lipids, and other biological macromolecules. So whatever the microbes you are using, which are basically convert in the configuration of the polymeric substances, and we are using different kind of polymeric substances, lipids, proteins, and polysaccharides and all, and then the microorganisms are kind of embedded in these kind of things. So it is known as a which is the main concern of our topic is biocenosis. And the question asked is the microorganism, especially the methanogenic bacteria, together with some acidogenic and acetogenic bacteria form which what is thing is called, which is preferably biofilms or soil sulfates, which is a biocenosis. Okay, so that is the answer. Now another question was asked that which is the predominant macromolecule in biomass that causes the production of more ammonia in biogas. So if you just go into the much more detail in the biogas, and if you go into the detail, then as we know that ammonia will be the available will be get yeah, its way towards your product, towards the product from the biomass. But the major concern with the ammonia is very reactive gas or reactive liquid, which mainly you are getting the ammonia gas, and that ammonia gas is very reactive, as well as the as we also sometimes, if you, I don't know, you took your chemistry class or some classes where you got ammonia, not actual ammonia but ammoniated water, which is NH4OH. If you just smell it, it's very strong, and you will get that strongness, or you will get that how much the this ammonia is reactive. You can understand that thing. So basically this ammonia get inhibit the methanosis bacteria which are using for the methanogenesis. So and that when you are using ammonia, then the pH will be go into the acidic or basic depending on the environment. So um, so now if we have to look into it, that we have to, for this bacteria to be work, the concentration of ammonia should be lower than 3000 ppm. So if you are okay, so the question asked here that which macromolecule biomass that's converted ammonia more. So as you can see here, maybe it is not mentioned over here. I think I took a wrong. Oh, okay, yeah, it is the first line only. Some substrates like proteins. So why proteins only created ammonia? This is also one good understanding, because protein has a, I don't know, I can able to write it or not. Because protein basically CONH2 amide. Amide is the end of the proteins. So basically amide structure is converted into the protein at the end. Here you will get some chain and some so many things over this. It is not to worry about, but you will get the CONH2. So hence it will convert into the, when you go for any process, this CO is converted, CO2 and is converted into the ammonia. You will get for the next step. So proteins, that's why the answer is which macromolecule is responsible for the production of the more ammonia in biogas. If you have more protein in your biomass, then it will eventually convert into the ammonia, sure. So if you talk about the food product and all, it all have protein. uh, so if you rely on the this kind of like vegetable source, plant source, then there will be lower protein. But if you talk about the animal waste or human waste or all, then it has a lot amount of protein, and eventually you get the more ammonia in your biogas production. Now we have gone through last time that biogas production requires some kind of designing. So if you talk designing of what, designing of the biogas production process, which is a anaerobic digestion process. So generally we are designing digester for that. So as you can see here, which are the general parameter, which we not go into much detail. Input parameter we have to think for the designing, which are the basic process parameters like mass flow rate, concentration, and in output the same output flow rate, output concentration. What are the volumetric flow rate of biogas which we are generating, what is the missing methane concentration in it and all. So for calculating this, we have to consider some of the load parameter, like the what is the retention time, which is basically retention time of the biomass, what is the organic load rate. So in our biomass, what is the organic amount. Sometimes we are, biomass has some metal part and all inorganic salts and everything, but what is actually organic material is only converted into the final product. So we have to think of that, what are the sludges is there which will remain unconverted, and what are performance parameter like biogas production, what is your biogas yield, what is your methane yield, what is your biogas productivity. And specific biogas productivity, it means what is the uh, uh, particular per volume and per mass, as well as per concentration, what do you get the biogas production. So we have to think about that biogas disaster. So the following specification like absence of water, gas leakages, Temperature is around 35 degrees. Find which kind of microorganisms you will using. Methanogenous bacteria is mesophoric, always mesophoric condition, so it's below 35 degree or below 40 degree. You go with thermophilic bacteria, which are basically not using in this process, otherwise you will go for the high temperature. And it needs to be designed, this pressure, whatever the gas which will generate, it can be able to design that it can withstand and it can operate under that. What is the similar shear stress, what are the different gas, let's say corrosive gases are generated, so how we can tackle of all these things. So then there are different kind of digester, which maybe we already have learned in the science lectures, which is mostly known as a Gobar glass plant and all in that time. But his one is a fixed dome gas digester where your whole dome or dome kind of shape is there, which we get, and this is under the earth. So this dome is fixed. It is it is made out of the construction material. It is fixed. You know, no one has changed the capacity or efficiency of this. And then it is a top part is fixed. So disadvantage are that sometimes pressure will fluctuate. A requirement is we need to understand, and we have to provide some more accessibility for high pressure in this. Then the floating dome digester, which is a very good story. In 1956, Jasu by J. Patel developed this process, which is also known as a go grass plant. But here the main thing is, and it get approved by the Khadi and Village Industries Commission (KVIC), which is this is the question I think they ask. Okay, this is a question that 1950s Jasubhai Patel developed a design of this plant popularly known as a Gobar gas plant. So it's a floating drum digester. The good part is that it is not directly attached with this part is directly attached, and it is movable. So if you are a pressure increase of the gas, then also it will not go not it can easily withstand, and it can enhance or expand depending on the pressure requirement. And these are some advantages is also mentioned. Now the last portion of the last week 10 discussion is the methanol production. So basically generally the 90% of methanol currently, or more than 90%, if you can say, they produce from the nature gas methanol reforming process, which is known as sometimes it is also going through this kind of stage that first you converted nature gas to from nature gas to synthesis gas, production of synthesis gas, then conversion of the synthesis gas into the crude methanol. And then you will, for crude methanol is, it means it has some impurities in it, so you have to remove the other impurities and you have to purify the methanol. Then you will go for the distillation process. At the end you will get the desired purity of your methanol. So this is the conventional process of producing the ethanol. But now it basically depends. So if you are using the nature gas, then also nature gas has different compositions most of the time. Sometimes more methane, sometimes methane is a little bit lower, carbon dioxide is more, hydrogen sulfide is more. So depending on the nature of nature gas, and then if you talk about the coal, biomass and all, depending on your source, you have to follow the process, some or other process for producing the methanol. And if you talk about the still conventional process, then it's steam methanol reforming, where nature gas and steam come together, and in the reforming process you will get fuel gases, some other gases, and then you will get the synthesis gases. This is your main concern. And nature gas, whatever the extra gas you use there, you can use it as a fuel, means you are providing the heat and all by using this nature gas. And whatever the synthesis gas you are getting, it's converted into the methanol by in this methanol converter, and you will get hydrogen. This is a very good process. You are getting the hydrogen at one end, then hydrogen production process is also like this. It can be known as a hydrogen production process. And whatever the another methanol which you are getting, so generally COH2 will be converted into the C3OH and H2O by using this nature gas methane. And then methanol will go for distillation, you will get a methanol and pure water separately. Now the question asks which raw material is utilized in the convection process, or actually convection process is not the correct word, it's conventional process, to produce methanol, which is a nature gas. conventionally and currently also people are using the methanol production from the nature gas. And the green methanol production which we discuss, in that production will be take whatever the, okay, so it's not only green production of methanol, but it's a green production of all kind of chemical like hydrogen and different kind of energy sources. So you can take the energy from the renewable energy, the renewable energy you will use for the first electrolysis, and you will get hydrogen out of it. So it's the first stage transformation which we see. Another, then you have the carbon capture thing where you are using CO2 and nitrogen, which will convert into the this we are hydrogen what you are getting, which will be reactive with that, then you will getting the ammonia in the case of nitrogen and methanol in the case of carbon dioxide. And then this is the second stage transformation. If you talk for a different kind of chemical production, then CO2 and H2 combine together and you will get the same synthetic fuels or synthetic petrochemicals out of it. Now this is how we can produce the methanol, ammonia and hydrogen. If we go for transportation, then for the hydrogen maybe you will go for the pipeline or shipping and trucks. Same with ammonia, because both are the gases, and methanol you can go for the trucks. And use if you have hydrogen, then it go for the heating, it will go for the industry. For power generation you can use any of that, not only hydrogen, you can use ammonia and methanol. And the transportation fuel you can use any of them. This is how it's a whole green methanol, green energy sources production. Now we say this last time that methanol has a various uses, because if you just see this methanol where it is there in our life, so it's from the paints, varnishes, adhesives, moldings, and if you talk about the roof panels, if you talk about the safety glass, lights, anything come out, it's required methanol as a source to produce all the products. If you want to use some fertilizer, some pesticide or insecticides or some agrochemicals, then also methanol will be there use. And you will see the various chemicals like methane or formaldehyde solvents, ethene and propene, methylamines, chloromethanes, dimethyl ether, biodiesel, petrol blending, everything you can use by the methyl. So methanol is very much important chemicals in, if you talk about the chemical industries, as well as the human uh, needs and human requirements. Okay, now we are talking about the organic commodity chemicals from biomass. So typically week 11 lecture, if you can go through the professor's lecture, then there is lot amount of discussions and lot amount of information is there. It's like if you talk about suppose you were talk about succinic acid, so what are the different ways? Some people talk about this particular way, some people talk about this ways. So this is how you can produce a succinic acid, and this is a other way. Okay. And what is a ale, what is that, this is all kind of thing is there in this particular chapter. But we need to understand this, that the chapter is more about the organic commodity chemicals. So it's basically chemicals which are first organic in nature, which has hydrocarbon in it. Commodity chemicals means they have used in the as commodity, like you are using for the production of the different kind of other chemicals, or their application is to fulfill the daily commodities needs. I took some of the important slides from the professor, because anyway information is same, but most of the slides I took which will give you some information which is apart from the professor's discussion, and you will get to know something. And not as this whole chapter is just you to get to so much amount of information, you can like in the sense you will just feel amazed that there are various steps and various processes to produce similar kind of chemicals, and how it is conventionally produced, and how you would use for the biological or biomass based route to produce the same chemical, and what is their yield and all. This is all about the professor discuss. So we have biomass. Then if you see that chemically derived chemicals are there, little bit chemicals which are you can use the biomass, and you are reacted by some chemicals. You do go for a chemical reaction, you will get butyric acid, glucaric acid, xylitol, sorbitol, glycerol, levulinic acid, furan dicarboxylic acid, and hydroxy hydroxymethyl sulfur and hydroxy. Why I am taking all these chemicals are again going to the different kind of chemicals, and there are different ways to utilize all of this. Another is biologically derived. When you going for the fermentation process, we are going for the as we discuss different kind of processes, gasification, this and that, and then you will get the ethanol, fumaric acid, glutamic acid, malic acid, and glutamic acid. So may integrate with the catalysis if we use the biological data process, but until let's integrate with some catalysis or enzyme process, then you will go for the farnesene, isoprene, lactic acid, fatty acid, and polyhydroxyalkanate. And then we are using this both biological chemical process when we are using your microorganisms and enzymes also at the same time the chemical reactions also taking place. Then these are the some chemical. These are just examples. It's not exactly you have to mark up and you have to understand. Uh, I just took some net internet sources for getting you aware about which are the different kind of example you will get. So this is a 3-hydroxypropionic acid, succinic acid, which is one of the most important aspartic acid, acetic acid, ethanoic acid, isobutanol. Even butadiene is also there, which will also most important chemicals for the many of the chemical industry. It is one of the kind of use. Okay, I just see that everyone is there or not. Means I am still connected or not. Okay, so these are some information I took directly from the professor's slides. Anyone has any question? Okay, so uh, uh, actually, ma'am, what is the problem with us? As we are not directly connected with the professor. One thing, we are the separate PhD students who got the responsibility to particular subject to organize this kind of doubt solving session. So but it depends what happened last time. In the first three assignments there was a problem. There are some questions which are wrongly answered, so myself I mailed the professor regarding that thing, but I didn't get any of the reply. So I don't want to give you any hope that you will get something out of us. So but I will try. I will again drop a mail by tomorrow. I will drop an email to the prof. I have his email ID, but uh, there are actually, if you understand this in NPTEL, there are two kind of these people are associated. One is a professor and students under professor who are mainly responsible for setting up the questions, who are mainly responsible for carrying out the exams and all. Another batch of students are like us, which are not related to professor, but our responsibility is to any of this given subject which is given to us. We need to make sure that if someone has any doubt in that, we are giving the solution, or we can just take the doubt to the concerned authority. So but you can maybe you can. Yeah, yeah. That is the same with us, ma'am. That is the main problem. That is, main actually not problem. This professor are also so much busy now. He is not able to see the mails and all. And it depends on also that how he wanted to involve in this NPTEL thing. So you can still drop an email. You can see some TA was mentioned over there and their mail ID. So you can directly talk to them also. And in the some of the, if you just go through the subject, there are some discussion forum is there. You can ask the same questions over there again and again maybe. So if it will go into their eyes, they will definitely give you the things, or maybe they can take decisions that they wanted to give or not. I can also drop a mail. I will drop a mail by tomorrow, and if I will get something in the next lecture, I will or I will ask NPTEL people to upload. Yeah, yeah, Yeah. Okay, so in this particular, if you see in this session, so I took some of the important slides from the professor, then I attached the other discussion which I got, which is just for the information. And this as we discuss in this chapter, there are lot and lot amount of discussion is there. So basically, you just understand that which are the different ways to produce some kind of organic commoditized chemicals. That's it. So if you talk about the basic kind of products, then first the biomass feedstocks has depending on the feedstock distribution and function, will get different types of feedstock characteristics, and by using the hydrolysis process, first we are converting into the sugar molecules, the cellulose molecules, then hemicellulose and cellulose, and then we are eventually go for the sugars. And then depending on to the type of biomass, I think how much amount of the lignin is there, sugar, other sugars are there, if we go for the different kind of products. That was the whole idea which we already discussed in a couple of lectures back. If you talk about an acid treatment, then it will go the glucose solution or some sugar, it will be converted into the alcoholic fermentation by using the alcohol, ethanol and all. And if you talk about the if you go for the phenol, this is also aromatic alcohol, and it will go for the hydrogenation process. These are a furan carboxyaldehyde, which is a furfular. Actually, this is the most important chemical, or one of the important chemical, which is not exactly the final chemical, but it is an intermediate chemical which will give you the hydrofurans and different kind of solvents, like THF, tetrahydrofurans is a very much important solvents, which has many applications in many of the areas. And if at the same time if you are using C5, C6 sugar and lignin, this all will be converted to ethanol, sulfur and phenols. Similarly, I'm not going to detail. Then we'll see that what are the chemicals which we got. We have gone through the list, one of the list, and professor mentioned another list where glycosides. These are some example where digitonin will be used. It will be used in the heart medicine. So not only this biomass based chemical are important, but these are very much important that they can be used for the some of the important drugs in the drugs and other problems. If you go for the narcotic, morphine will be converted from the opium poppy plant. Anti-malaria quinine, which we are using, which will form the trees from the cinchona, or yeah, cinchona species. Then chemotherapeutic agent Taxol will be from the genus Taxus. Algains and alginase will go from the some microphase. There are many like this. Erucic acid, which will go from the canola seeds or rapeseeds. We have mustard, which also known as some one type of mustard. Squalor oils, that will be hydroxyunsaturated fatty acid, and like many more, vitamin B and many things will be all there. But if you talk about the structures, they are semi-synthetic or synthetic products. So when you go for the semi-synthetics, mostly come from the biomass, but sometimes it will go to reactor, and reaction will be converted into the semi-synthetic whole synthetic process. Now, if you go with the structure, then the chirality will be there. So chiral chemicals are the chemicals where you are have the chain of molecule, and like carbon is there and there is chain. And if you see in one of the process, one of the chemical, you get OH at one particular side, and another side hydrogen is there. If you just opposite to is, if you go for that, it is known as how you go for the reflection of it. Okay, someone wanted to join or something. I got some. Okay. Okay, so actually we already discussed about the 10th chapter and all the assignment questions for that. Now we are discussing the information from the 11th chapter, that it consists so much information. So some important information I am including, and then we go for the some other slides which I have prepared. So as we're saying that if your chemicals are producing from the biomass, then they have the different kind of activities and chiralities we should think of it. Chiral, like we have to see the reflections if it is similar or not. It depends on cis trans and D-glucose, L-glucose, that kind of thing. So there are some nature polyisoprenate rubbers that will be converted into the market, which will be directly there. If you go for some second stage chemicals, which will be at primary stage, and after that you convert into the another chemical, then you will get perfume. If you talk about turpentine, then it will again convert into the some chemicals which is for the giving you the aroma. Now, if you talk about the biomass, then there will be many parts of biomass. One mostly we know is the cellulose. The cellulose has the C6 sugar chain, and if you talk about the hemicellulose, then it has mixing of C6 sugar as well as C5 sugar, which is basically sugar consists of 5 carbon atom, and another is carbon consists 6 carbon atoms. And depending on the C5 or C6, it will have the different chemicals. If you talk about the C5 sugars, then you will get the furfuran and xylitol, which is most important chemical in some of the applications. Without C6 sugar, then we will go by using the fermentation and not process. We go into the ethanol, acetaldehyde, acetic acid, acetone, which are most of the important chemicals: lactic acid, oxalic acid, citric acid. Most amino acids and vitamins and antibiotics are there. Without the chemical process, then it will go for the glycerol, hydroxymethyl sorbitol, or the you can convert into the fructose also. It's same if your whole cellulose, if you're not going to the sugar, then the cellulose has some different derivatives of cellulose is there. If you go chemical reactor with cellulose ester, cellulose acids, nitrous, ethers, and xanthanones. If your lignins are in your process, then lignins will be converted into phenols, vanillin, because lignin has aromatic structure, so it will be definitely converted into the aromatics alcohol like phenols and the sulfonates. And then NNC, other chemicals will be converted into alginates, alkaloids, phenols, rosins, or resins, abas, and exes. The most important is everything is general in this lecture, and then we are going into some specific kind of chemical reactions and chemical production, then which professor suggested, but mostly you can see the range of the chemical which you are getting by using this kind of chemical process or related to the biological origin. Now biomass, if you in the presence of oxygen steam, we go for the gasifier, you get the synthetic gases. We just discussed in the last lecture, some slides in the last lecture. We got the CO and H2. Now it will the major source is if you want to convert it into the hydrogen, which is a much important resource for converting into the hydrogen for producing hydrogen production. It will be converted into a methanol. It will be in the reaction, it will get methanol hydrogen in the both at that time. You'll go for the gas or synthetic gas converted into the natural gas or synthetic nature gas, which is a methane. Go for the ammonia production, auxiliary alcohols production, hydrocarbon production is there always there, means alkanes and all. You go for the BTUs, which are sorry. So which is generally based in that origin products you will get. Now I took some four five slides from the professor, so you will get to information, and there are some assignment questions are there, so you can able to solve it. One is a pentose derived commodity chemicals. So first important, as we know that furfuran and xylitol are there. So xylitol is most important example, or one of the most important example, which is a pentahydric alcohol. So which has a 5 carbon and converted into hydro alcohol, which will be converted by using produced by hydrogenation process of the aldehyde group in xylose. Xylose is one of the sugar which has 5 carbon. So in 19th century, cyclodehydration was taken place by groups to yield the furfuran, and xylose is an example of dehydrated acid treatment. And then we are using the xylose, and then you continue to go for the dehydration acid treatment, and all. By using the one or two intermediate chemical, at the end you will get this kind of furan based chemical, which is a furfuran. Now the furfuran, if you talk about the furfuran, furan is nothing but 5 carbon, and at the end in between you will get 5 carbon cyclic structure, you get oxygen in it. Now, if you talk about this, many derivatives you are getting out of sulfur furan based chemicals, but the most important you will get is one is a tetrahydrofuran, which is a chemical solvent which is more useful in many way process, or tetrahydrofuran alcohol. And then if another, then if you go for the catalytic decarbonylation, then you go for the furan. Catalytic hydrogenation of the aldehyde group to the sulfur alcohol, hydrogenation of the furan ring to the tetrahydrosulfur alcohol, and oxidation if you are going to the aldehyde group and then the furoic acid. And similar kind of how which are the process. So this is the similar kind of chemical which we are producing by using various different kind of process. Here you can go for the hydrogenation, large number of substitution, addition reactions, and or you can go for the catalytic dehydration process, the rearrangement process, and all. Now if you talk about the hexose, they have chemicals. Then hexose are the sugar which has a 6 carbon in it. So mainly they are the glucose and different kind of sugars. So most important, most famous is the glucose, because cellulose is made out of the glucose molecules of polymer, or made out of the glucose molecule chains, which is a much very large number of glucose chains from 100 to 3000 or more than that. So it is basically uh, if you think that they are mostly the commodity chemicals, but some chemical like disaccharide cellulose, glucose 3 glucoside, which is not commodity chemical, but it's which are some chemical intermediate chemical for the other production of chemicals. So the glucose is we from first day itself or second day, second discussion itself, we see the glucose is converted into the alcohol by fermentation process and different kind of process. So first it's converted into gluconic acid, which we see in the acidogenesis process, and aldehyde versus carboxylic group, and after that it have converted into the alcohol sorbitol by hydrogenation or okay, yeah, that kind of groups. And we can go many kind of different kind of alcohols, not only sorbitol, it's mannitol, many sugars. Depending on the sugars, inward sugars, you will get different kind of varieties of uh, product out of it. The hexoses can also be converted directly to levulinic acid and formic acid. Formic acid we all know. We see that it will convert into format acetate, kind of similar kind of acetate. It will convert into format. You will get the formic acid. Similar one another important chemical is levulinic acid, which is not that much commoditized like formic acid. But it is an intermediate chemical which will give you the final some product like diphenolic acid, succinic acid. Now succinic acid is much more uh, maybe you guys heard about it, then the pyridones. So these are the polymeric structures. Sometimes they are using for the means, single structure, but mostly they are using in the polymer form for many applications. Now if you talk about the same gluconic acid, then it will come to gluconone lectern from this acid, from sorbitol esters, and different derivatives of the sorbitols, and mannitols also. Then the copolymer, we convert to copolymer of sorbitol esters, alkaline oxides, and then basically vitamin C is nothing but the L-ascorbic acid, which will be the also converted got produced from the glucose only. Now lipid, there are commodity chemicals, so lipids are the compound which we are getting from the biomass, and it has a very complex structure. So compounds obtained from the spent liquors and wood pulping industry, which are basically lignins. Sorry, okay, so this is okay, so the title is wrong. Give me a minute. So this is liquid, and okay, so first we talk about the lignin, obviously. So lignin is one of the major part of the lignocellulosic biomass. So if we talk about the lignin, then so mainly this wood pulping industry will get the lignin. The lignin is for converted into the many different kind of chemicals. Mainly they are coming for the adhesives, binders, and dispersing as an emulsifier, cement, and gypsum manufacture. And another that then this is also used for the pure commodity chemicals like vanillin, catechol series, and the compound pharmaceutical intermediates and all. You can go from the lignin. If you talk about lipids, lipids are generally the fats which you are getting from the uh, oils, and if you talk about the animals, then animal waste and all. Then basically it has a triglycerides, which is from C6 to C24 fatty acid is that, and triglyceride alcohol like glycerol, which we see. uh, the what are the fatty acid which it is there, which has lesser significance, and which will go for the by using the first fat hydrolysis, and then you convert it into the saturated lauric, myristic, palmitic, stearic, and behanic acid. So this is nothing but the different carbon chain of acids are there, and these all are the fatty acids which is covered for the lipids. If you separate it out, what are the glycosides bonds are there, glyceride bonds are there, you convert into the glycerol and another some carbon chain you will get, it will convert into the fatty acids. Now this fatty acid is be converted into different kind of aldehydes, amine, depending on your process requirement, or if your product, whatever product you want to use. Then if you talk about the another part, which is a glycerol, which is a very versatile chemical, one of the good solvent, and which is uh, one of the good raw materials to react with the for the formation of the explosive like nitroglycerin, glycerol nitrate, and different kind of soybean oil and ester formation. Other than that, the methyl esters also convert. We got methyl ester when which 6 to 8 fatty acid molecule convert together and convert into the ester. So acid word plus alcohol, ester plus water you will get like this. So this is now the protein derivative chemicals. The protein we already discussed that it has the CONH2 amide structure at the end. We just discussed 2 days only. And other than that, it has a CONH2 is if you talk about the one amino acid, but when we combine together, so pardon me, I don't have. Uh, Before I used to use, I have to use this uh, tablet kind of thing, but now I am not in India, so I didn't bring my tablet. Okay, so this is a CONH kind of board, and here some R kind of thing is always there. So depending on the CONH and the other kind of the amino acid, you will get the different kind of products. So its amino acids mainly bind with a peptide linkage. So this is called as a peptide linkage, and usually more than 100 amino acids are combined together in protein. And if you convert into the polypeptide into the amino acid, you will get the different acids. Alkali enzyme catalyzed hydrolysis will be taken. We have to take this use this process to convert into amino acid. Then the amino acid, all amino acid has uh, different kind of applications. So that's why glycine, serine, cytosine is mostly in the pharmaceutical and different processes. This tyrosine protein. So basic acid include arginine, lysine, hydroxylysine, glutamine, histidine, and aurinite. And how you can get it? That's mainly protein. From protein you will get the amino acid, and that is your commodity chemicals for your application. Now, these are some of the processes which I attach, which is not mentioned by the professor. Which actually this is in detail. This is not the detail which like professor gave how you produce conventionally, industrially, and how biomass conversion you will get to use for the biological based process. But here, some of the process how it actually takes place. So what is the carbon resource are there which will be first converted into, this is a one way to produce a succinic acid, so phosphophenol, pyruvate, and then depending on the requirement of a CO2 addition and then enzyme conversion, you will get then succinate ion will be converted into succinic acid, which will after the hydrolysis of that particular ion. In the another process, it here you will see the malate and fumarate is in between the ion you are getting it. In the another process, we are have the carbon resource, and you are go convert into acetyl CO or by acetogenesis. We already see. Then you will convert into the citrate and then you can eventually convert into citric acid also. But what are the citrate is there, which is oxaloacetate is reacted with it, and it will convert into isocitrate, and from isocitrate you will get the glycosylate and succinate ion you will get, and you will get the succinic acid out of it. But again the glycosylate acetyl CO, you get malate and oxoacetate, and then same acetic acid generation will be there. The third Carbon residue will convert into pyruvate, or its more famous route, and then will form the citrate. And from out of citrate, you have to go for isocitrate, succinate, and similar kind of process. Now, this is all about the typical process which we can see, but this is the how actually, that is all about the which we in this particular subject we see that kind of conversion processes, but this is how this take place in the industry. Just take me some water. Okay, so if you think this is this is here the fermentation process, this fermentation is taking place, but before that we have deacetylation. Acetylation. So acetyl in the deacetylation means we have the whatever the acetyl impurities and acetic acid impurities we are removing in this particular reaction by using some of the chemical process, and then whatever the acid will be get, it will go into the acid thermal hydrolysis, and then it will be uh, go for the decanter. So you will get the organic phase and the aqueous phases, and you will remove what are the organic phases you will get. It will be fed into the fermenter, and this whole fermentation process of position succeeding acid will take place in the fermenter. And then what, once you will get your product which is definitely it has succinic acid in it, but how can we remove it? So the we are discussing most of the part, or mainly this part only, but the separation getting the purify or qualitative product, which is the much more difficult job out of it after it. So now we have many impurities along with our final product of succinic acid. So first we'll go for the microfiltration process, which will remove some kind of filter and the filtrate some impurities and all. Then when next day we'll go for the ultra filtration process. This is a one way of approach. It's not always we are using this kind of process. There are different kind of succinic acid production process proposed by different kind of researchers and different kind of industrial um, industries. So depending on your requirement, depending on your availability of biomass and capital and everything expenditure, you can go for any kind of processes. I'll just see. Okay. Okay, so if you can see here, then after this fermentation we go micro and ultra filtration. Still whatever the filtrate you will get, it will go into the multi-effective operation process. So whatever the extra solvent and impurities there, it will go if you water and all water vapor, it will convert into water vapor and go out, and then you will go for the crystallization process. So you're going for the uh, removing the waste out of your process, and then the crystal and the other than liquid will you will separate it out. So crystallization will be different product, that is not the say succinic acid. Then you will go for the centrifuge. Once you convert the crystallizer as a solid crystal will be formed, then if you want to remove it, then you go for the centrifuge will be remove the liquid and solid. You will go for the second stage of crystallizer centrifuge, and whatever the liquid amount you will get, you will go for the methanol distillation. So actually after this process you will get once ethanol and another, and you get the succinic acid. So whatever centrifuge you are getting the solid product which will be going to the which still has a methanol in it. So here water liquid we will get, it's also converted into the methanol, and then distillation, after distillation you will get the pure methanol here. And water solid in that also methanol purification will be required, methanol evaporation will be required. Purification means you will purify whatever the methanol is there. We will separate it out by evaporation. First you will convert the all things into methanol, then you will evaporate all the things, and then you will get the solid product which is a succinic acid. Other than that, if you have another waste material, then it will go for the directly, it will not go out, it will go for the thermocracker, then it will go for the waste. Whatever the thermocracking product is there, which will go for the again crystallizer recycling. Every step you will get recycled back to the extra methanol, to the methanol storage, extra product into the again again sell back to the main any of the important unit operation. Now, after succinic acid, another important acid is the propionic acid. So propionic acid is nothing but the three carbon acid. So there are many routes to produce the propionic acid. If you consider the major three routes, and the first is the fermentation pathways, another is the amino acid catabolic pathways. So if you talk about the fermentation pathways, where you have the fucose or fructose or fucose, glucose, and other kind of sugars, which will be go for the crystal and phosphate, and the same lactate will be go in that you go for that, then propionate, you will get the propionate out of it. And what are the lactate and propionate are there converted into propanol, and then in the presence of pyruvate and all, we get propionate again, and the propionate you will be directly this is a fermentation pathway. The three different ways by using the fermentation process you will get the propionic acid. So you require this propionate ion will be then hydrolyzed to got the propionic acid. So this is the one way. In another way you will convert lactic by using this, and in the third way it's a pyruvate, and this oh sorry, this is a pyruvate, and this is a fourth way. So everywhere you are getting the propionate. In between you are getting succinate, and then you have with the succin NiCON methyl malonyl COA process, and then you will add then propionate. If you go for the other pathways like chemical processes and all, then amino acid catabolic pathways where methanol isolation will get three different ways to get the propionate, and the propionate which will convert into propionic acid. And the biosynthetic pathways where biological process as well as synthetic process both are take place. It is like that only. Acetyl pyruvate to convert into the propionate with the citramalate pathway, and another is the 3HP, the OHP, 3HP cycles are there. 4HP, 3HP cycles. Now, how it actually looks like to produce the propionic acid. So basically, we have some biomass feed or some nutrients. As per this process and water, we will go into the fluid blending tank where we are blending water and our biomass together, and we'll make the slurry kind of thing. The slurry will be go into the sterilizer where it will get heated and it's go for the sterilization. Then the sterilization is required because if you want to increase the purity of your product, then sterilization will be important to remove the impurities and unwanted things from your feed. And it will go for the sterile feed, and then whatever the sterile feed you will get, it will go for the fermentation process in the fermenter, and then it is again reacted, and you will get the carbon dioxide out of it, and then fermentation process uh, will take place, and then medium fermentation medium will be going. Now after fermentation process you will get the product as well as unnecessary metal liquor solvent and all. You have to recover. For the recovery you will go for the mixer settler process, extractor process, where the equipment where we will go mixing and settling you will take place, and at the end you will get the solvent. The solvent will be used for this mixture settle extractor. So this is not actually solvent will be the product from your sugar through the fermenter. You will add the solvent. This solvent will be used for the mixing and settling process, and then it will again go for the recycle where you will get the pure solvent, and this again go for the recycle back. And then another way you will get the acids, and that acid is not only the propionic acid but it has acetic acid as well as propionic acid. So for the purification we will go for the distillation column where you will, the one end you will get acetic acid and another end get a propionic acid. Now polylactic acid or PLA, which is also important process, important chemical. If you talk about the polylactic process in biomass, if you can't able to see that, just listen that biomass feed will be going to fermentation, and whatever the product will get, it go for the separation, and that separation and separator whatever the biomass will go to recycle and go back to the fermentation process, and the other part of the separator will go to precipitation reactor which has a product in it, and now we to go for the precipitate reaction which we use calcium hydroxide water which we useful for the precipitation of our product. And then in the second step you go for the resolving reactor where you are using the sulfuric acid. You don't need to remember all these things, you have to just see that how this actual process looks like. It's not like some fermentation process is easy and simple. It has various stages. So it will go for this dissolving talk where sulfuric acid you are using, and then again go for the filter, and then you go flesh chamber. From it will go for the pre-concentrated column, and then esterification and reactive distillation column. So there will be reaction will be take place before pressing the PLA. It will not uh, got it has it required a methanol feed and all will, so lactic acid will be converted to polylactic acid not easily. It will go for the esterification process. We are using the reactions. Then hydrolysis reactive distillation column. After that methanol recovery column, and then out of all of this, after the hydrolysis reactive column, we will go so again this is a column sequence, and at the end for the polymerization. After that, then we will get the pure product. Then you go for the polymerization process. The polymerizer reactor will be there, and the neutralizing vessels will be got, and then the evaporator will be get the final product of polylactic acid. So if you see that food waste is becoming into fermentation by lactic acid, but lactic acid is not the polymerized into the polylactic acid. It sounds simple, but if you get lactic acid, then also this many amount of feed is required. Extra step is required to go into the final polymerization process. And then once you get the polylactic acid, now we have heard that PLA, polylactic acid, but what are the uses of that one? So mainly now biodegradable packing is comes into the picture. So for packaging, biodegradable packaging, the PLA is a much more important process of chemical, which is like polythene. We are using the PLA for this one, and it has application in packaging, drug delivery, tissue engineering, and manufacturing, different kind of chemicals. So mainly the biodegradable products and drug delivery and tissue engineering are taken place of by using the PLA. So that's why PLA is much more well-known chemical in that sense and commoditized chemical. So if you see that how its reaction looks like, the lactic acid will convert into first like cyclic actiside monomer, and then with this monomer will combine together and cause the polylactic acid. Now another important chemical is the 1,3-propanediol production. Now I think 2-3 styles are remaining, not much than that. So one is a 1,3-propanediol production processes, in which, so first is it is made out of the glycerol mainly. So glycerol, if you go for the esterification of glycerol, you will get the monoacetyl glycerol plus diacetyl glycerol. And if you go for the etherification, then you have polyglycerol. If you go for the dehydration of glycerol, you will get the acrolein out of it. If you go for the hydrogenolysis, then you are using a OH, and then you will go the 1,2-propanediol and 1,3-propanediol. So this is the route which is important for this one. Other than that, if you go for oxidation, then you will get the dihydroxy acetone. If you go for the carbonylation, then you will get the glycerol carbonate. If you go for reforming, then the synthetic gas reforming process is there, acetylize, and then cyclic acetyls are there. So our important process is hydrogenolysis process or hydrolysis process, but we are using the biomass or biological route, then it is known as a hydrogenolysis process. So first we are glucose is here, we are using the some enzymes and all, and then you will go for this route to convert into glycerol, and glycerol will be converted into 1,3-PDO, which is 1,3-propanediol. And the similar way, if you were using this route, then this is a PEP dependent glucose transport. Here is a ATP dependent glucose transport. Depending on the requirement, you will get the 1,3-PDO. Simply, acetal will be acid in the presence of acid. Hydrolysis will take place when water is removed, and then you will get water was added. Then you will get hydroxyacetone and 1,2-propanediol. If you go for the 3-hydroxypropanedialdehyde, then you will go for the 1,3-propanediol. Now the 2,3-butanediol production processes. So the 2,3-butanediol, then if you it will that 1,3-butanediol 1,3-propanediol is from the glycerol, which is glycerol has three carbon, so it can get converted from this one. This is from the lactose, which has 4 carbon, so it will convert into the glucose first, and then which is the way to make the pyruvate, and then acetone, and then 2,3-butanediol. But if you can go for the galactose, and then you can follow this process, and then you will get this one. But you have to be inhibiting the processes which can form the acetate, which can form the formate, which can form the succinate. You have to focus on the process where to get the 2,3-butanediol, and this is the process. These are the mixing thing, whatever the biomass feed is there, which will be going to mixing and all, and then Eventually, it will fade into the head. Fade to the heat exchanger, and then that reaction, the reaction process taking place of fermented, and it will go for the once you process product will be produced, then it will go for the vacuum filtration process, and continuous reactor setup will be the decanter for separating the two different liquids, and then heat exchanger, and then MEK recovery, methyl ether ketone recovery. Then the ether ketone recovery, you will get the two three within there at the other end. Okay, so this is all the separation process, verification process. Now there is a pH production, which is nothing but the polyhydroxyalkanone production process, where this is not a one chemical, which is a PHB, PHB, PH3B, depending on the carbon length, chain length, and depending on to the position, it will be converted to P3HB, where short chain length pH, P3HB C5 carbon is there, P3HX6, all are free poly 3 hydroxy alkanoate. P3HSPC7 carbon, 8 carbon is P3HO, 9 carbon P3H, and 10 carbon 11 12 only. Over 160 different kind of monomers is there. We can use it and we can convert it into polymer, and then you will get these are the different kind of monomers only. This is a short chain, medium chain length, and we have more length, and the monomer is low. So you can see these all are the polymers, and this is the monomer. So repeating unit of monomer is considering over here. Now how it is producing, then if you have nutrients and biomass kind of thing, which is we go into the bioconversion process, where methane will be converted into the pH, gas will be generated, which is unreacted methane, other gases which will go into the exhaust. Air we are using in the process of air, this process taking place, and after this we go for the centrifuges process, we separate the liquid and solid, and then we are adding the water and NaOH, and it will go to the pH extraction purification. Then we will go for the water and ethanol, and at the end you will get the pH at the end, and at the other end we will get the different liquid out of here, which will go recycle back, and then you can go for the everywhere centrifuge you are getting the some amount of molecule, you will go for the wastewater. Now uh, you can go for the biogas out of this, whatever the exhaust gas which will there, you can separate it out, you can pressurize and convert it, go the you can pause with the biogas anoxic desulfurization process, where biogas will become, this gas will become, and then wastewater will be, this is absorption column, and the nutrients and which we have to add, and then in the presence of air you will get first you biogas disappearance take place, water sulfur will be there, will be removed, and after the biogas you left, it will go for the production of the heat production, electricity production, as well as different processes. So mainly it will go for the electricity production, power production, heat will be there. Some exhaust gases from the, for after you extract the heat, then exhaust gases will be also generated from the heat exchanger. Okay, so with this, I am ending today's discussion, and at the end, I am quoting the great Nikola Tesla, that he mentioned once that one must be sane to think clearly. So one has requires some intelligence or some state of the mind for clear thinking. But if you want to go for the much more deeper thinking, and if you want to contemplating on the important topics, one does you want to give something to a society, you have to be quite insane in the sense that it's not like perfectly made, but you are mad behind the topic, you're mad or insane behind some not exact topic or of your discovery or invention, that you can only contemplating and deeply thinking on that particular thing, and you will get something out of it, like Edison and like Newton. Everyone has the insane mind with them. They spend a lot and lot amount of time to get something out of them. Okay, with this I am closing this today's discussion. If you have any doubt, you can ask me, or else you can leave the chat. Actually, it's late night over here. I am in Australia, so if you have any doubt, you can ask me, or else. we can stop discussion over here. Okay. Okay. So, do you want to ask any question? Uh, Hello. Actually, I just complete the whole discussion of 1.5 hours. We discuss week 10 content and all the assignment questions solved, solve that questions, and then I will discuss week 11 content. Or if you just go through again for your concern, then I will upload the material you will get. So this is which we discussed today. uh, Hydrogen, methane, methanol last week content, and organic community chemical from biomass this week content. So we discuss about hydrogen production, biophotolysis process, fermentation process, indirect and direct biophotoresistance questions, assignment questions on it, indirect biophotolysis, then the questions, photofermentation, direct fermentations questions. We went into that in much more detail. Strict anaerobic and facultative anaerobic works, uh, how much it's sensitive to oxygen or not, which is the important bacteria in both of them, which are the questions. Then biogas productions, and what is the biofiltration process and the question asked on it. And then we discuss some different kind of which kind of different chemical microorganisms required for this biogas production, and some other questions on this designing of biogas for and question asked on then methanol production, conventional way of producing methanol, uses of methanol, and then we move to the week 11 lecture where some organic chemicals over there. There are so much information which already professor gives, so I mainly first important information from his side I included, and then pentose they have chemicals, hexose they have lignin, they have lipid, and protein they have. Then we have gone through this is the end of the professor's part, then I will add my part, and all different kind of succinic acid products, and we see the different processes for that, propionic acid production, different root and processes, polylactic acid production processes, and applications, and then the pentylpropane diproduction, 2,4 butane diproductions, PHS polyhydroxy alkanol productions, and at the end that's it. So this is all about today's content. I am again stop sharing. I already recorded all the content, and I will upload that into the YouTube by tonight, and you will get the link for it. If you want to ask any questions, you can ask. Or maybe I will close it because I don't want to stretch more. It's a late night in here in Australia, so I don't want to go into much more detail. This is all from my side. It's more than 1.5 hour, more than 1.5 hour. So I'm stop sharing my content. Do you have any question you can ask? Otherwise, you can leave as I am ending this meeting for now. Or if you want to have any doubt, you can ping me. This is my WhatsApp number. If you have any questions related to anything, you can drop a message to me. I put the number on chat, and all of my presentation and video lecture you will get my contact details. If you have any questions, you can get me there. Do you have any question? Do you want to ask anything? Okay. Yeah, you can ask anything in chat if you want. But if you're asking any old paper and all, so maybe I'm not directly working with professor. There are TAs and professor who are apart from us. We are the PhD students who got the responsibility to take the doubt solving lectures on this particular subjects. So I cannot able to help you regarding If you want any question, all the question papers, and if you want any other information from professor, you can directly drop an email to him. If he'll get time, he can reply. Some of the people asked today's the older question papers, so maybe I will also ask him. If I will get something, I will let you know in the next lecture. That's it. If you want to ask anything, you can ask. Yeah, good evening. Okay. So actually, basically, uh, mostly, I'm first and important thing. I am not deciding which kind of exam questions were there, but it should be MCQs mostly, and it depends that if you want they wanted to add anything else like that. So if you want to get answer of this, because there are the professor and the TA working under him, who are directly responsible for setting the assignments, and were responsible to get the final paper setting also. But you can directly mail to them. Other than other option is you can ask these things into the forum, NPTEL forum, where you will get some answer. If I am telling my experience, so I got that in our some of the assignments, some questions were wrongly answered. I drop an email to the professor, but I didn't get any word from him. So you can also do the same thing. You can drop the email, but mostly it should be like an MCQs kind of questions most of the time, but sometimes it's fill in the blanks definitions. It depends if they wanted to take it that kind of exam, or that conceptual question they wanted to take or not. So maybe, but I will drop a mail to him again. Maybe he can, if he will able to reply. So good. Okay, you can also try from your end. You can also try from your end. Maybe if you get in something, then it's good for you. I will also try, and let's see. Okay, okay. Yeah. So, yeah, actually, but as I am apart from that main group of professor, but didn't he take any live lectures till now? The, Oh, if he should have taken some live lectures. So professor actually in every NPTEL session they took two or three live lectures, in which you can directly ask to these questions to him. Then he can able to reply basis of, because what is in his mind we don't know. As you are also getting in the NPTEL that this as a one more chapter is there. Like this we are also getting this. Yeah, yeah. Maybe you again drop a mail to him. He will decide, because I am not personally touch with him. I sent up some emails in the past, but I didn't get reply of any. So I can't say anything. I don't want to give you wrong hope. So anyway, you but all the best. I will try to send him a message if I will get anything. So you can contact me on this WhatsApp number. I can give you if I get something, or maybe in the next lecture next Tuesday I will get you. Oh, okay. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.